You might have heard the concept of the middle path. That's a Buddhist concept. It was used traditionally in Buddhism. And the reason why I thought of doing this short talk was because I remembered a day that I met it was actually a practitioner of meditation and all that, and that person specific was smoking a cigarette. And then he said, well, I'm following the middle path, which means um, I do a little bit of meditation, but I also smoke a little bit of cigarette to balance. Now, irrespective of the if it's right or wrong for you to smoke or not, irrespective of that, that's not the point here. It was just interesting the, let's say, the philosophical perspective of being the middle path, of kind of a little bit of wrong, a little bit of right. I think that was the usage of the term middle path or middle way. And I would like to, on this video, just to explain briefly what actually was the idea of a middle path or middle way in Buddhism. When the Buddha spoke of the middle way, and he said that his path or his teachings are about the middle way. So let's say one definition of the Buddhist path is the middle path. The reason why he used that term is because his philosophical view and his practice was said to be in between two extremes that were common on his day. So you have to also consider that the Buddha time was about 2,600 years ago, so quite a bit of time before, but those extremes that he mentioned are still kind of happening nowadays, maybe in slightly different forms. On one hand, you had what he called the nihilists. Now, so nihilism is even a philosophical idea up to nowadays, which is a view, broadly speaking, or putting simply, that it gives a little bit of a denial of meaning in life, or deeper meaning in life. So nihilism is normally associated, although it's not necessarily that, but associated with kind of a more depressive outtake on the world, on life, that kind of life is, it has no really point or sense. And whatever justification we do, like, well, to live is to achieve great things, or to live is to be good, or to live is to evolve, anything like that is just a mental fabrication of humans. It doesn't mean that life itself has any meaning in it. It's not, there's no intrinsic reason for existence. In that sense, a little bit like which would be the materialistic or physicalist view in the modern world, or even modern science, modern philosophy, which is the perspective that we humans and all life forms, animals, we are kind of accidents of evolution. They were like, through the process of evolution, through the many years that the universe has been to place, eventually there's some combination of molecules by chance and by luck, or for some people maybe they think it's not for luck but out of luck, there was this development of a consciousness, of a mind. And then we have the experience that we have nowadays, which is a body and consciousness. I feel like myself, like a person. And but there's no deeper meaning apart from that kind of evolutionary accident. And once you die, you die. If you are a good person, if you're a bad person, once the life of this body comes to an end, that's it. It's a black screen. It's finished. So it's, of course, this nihilistic view is very much opposite to a lot of the religious or spiritual views throughout history, which normally, pretty much all of religions will normally assign some deeper reason for the existence of human life, either for spiritual evolution or for finding God or the experience of the divine, whatever it is. But normally it provides some deeper meaning for existence, something beyond just eating and sleeping and then eventually dying, and it's the end of it. So that's one view, the nihilistic view, which, as we can see, was already present by the time of the Buddha. Sometimes you say that everyone in the past was religious, and if you read the Buddhist text, you understand that no, it's not correct. The materialistic or physicalist view was already present in those days in India. Then the other extreme, so the other, let's say the other side of it, and extreme according, of course, to the Buddhist perspective, to the Buddha idea, was what he called the eternalistic view, or the eternalism. When he says eternalism, pretty much that's the idea or the concept of a soul. Soul is a modern word, so it gets complicated when you use translation for old concepts or ancient concepts, but let's move forward talking as a soul. The perspective here is that the Buddha said there are many people, and still there's many ideas, philosophies, religions that address this point, with the idea that there's something in us, in the humans, or maybe even animals, but let's talk about humans, that is beyond the mind and the body, and that something is the true self. So, for example, I have a body, and it's obvious that the body will decay and die, and then even the mind, this experience of mind, thoughts, etc., will also decay and die with the body. But there's something of me, which is the true me, and is my essence, is my ultimate me, which some people have called soul, or my consciousness, whatever it is, whatever name you want to give to it, but that's something which lasts longer than this body. So that's something that travels maybe from body to body, or that's something that unites with God, or that's something that stays in heaven or hell. But there is that something which is the true me, this this deep substance, and ultimately self, like the deep true self. From the perspective of Buddha, that is also kind of the opposite of the nihilistic. So nihilism will say, well, there's nothing really. It's just you live and then you die and that's it. And it's just a natural process. There's no really true self that carries on. On the other hand, you say, no, the eternalism will say, no, there's something deep inside somewhere, which is the true self, which is the true me, and that is indestructible. That will also move from body to body, or that will go to heaven, and whatever perspective people might put forward. Now, the Buddha said that both perspectives are, on his opinion, extremes, and he chose what he called the middle way. The middle way is, on one hand, the Buddha said that what we perceive as ourselves, as me, my body, my mind, is actually a combination of things. You can see yourself as, you see, for example, the body. Which part of the body is truly you? Is it the heart? Is it the brain? Is it the lungs? Is it the liver? If you remove any of those parts, the body will stop functioning. So the body is just understood and perceived and act as a unit because of this combination. There's no such thing as this part is the me, this part is the body. The body is just a body because of the combination of parts. If you think in terms of your mind, there's no, oh, this is, that memory is me, or this aspect of my personality is me, because it's always changing, it's always shifting. When you're 5 years old, you behave like a baby. When you're 70, you behave like an old man. So it changes over time. So you can point to anything in your brain or in your mind or in your memories that, oh, this is the me, this is who I am. It's also a combination of things. What the Buddha said is, this is precisely what we are. We are a process of a combination of different aspects. And from the perspective of the Buddha, there's no me in there. There's no ultimate piece or ultimate thing that is the I. That I, it's a process of combined parts. Here the Buddha was kind of denying the eternalistic view, to say that there's some ultimate substance, like an ultimate me. Now the Buddha is also against the nihilistic perspective, because on the point of view of Buddhism, this cycle of actions, which he called karma, has a continuation. So you see, the complicated bit here is not that the soul continues and then generates karma, but this process of body and mind, certain things of it continue forward. So you could say, on the perspective of Buddhism, it makes more sense to say that rebirth or continuation of life is more related to aspects of the mind and not so much to a soul. In any case, he also didn't access life as something that ends with death. He said there is some continuation process which doesn't end at the moment that the body dies. And also he points out that the nihilistic view, or this materialistic view, prevents then, or creates more obstacles for living a virtuous life. So if you say that kind of nothing really matters in the end, then the worst murderer or criminal or the most violent person in and the best saint or virtuous person, anyone that is very admired in the community, in the end, they both go down to the 6 feet under. So the Buddha said that's not a good perspective, that's not a good philosophical perspective for the nourishment of virtues, for the nourishment of ethics, for having a good life. So you say that's a dangerous perspective, the nihilistic one, the denial of continuation. One last analogy or last point, which maybe can clarify some of the ideas I spoke, is in terms of the rebirth process of Buddhism or this continuation, because you could argue, well, how is it that there's some form of continuation of life without a soul if it looks like the body or the mind dies with death? One image that is commonly used is the idea of a candle. So if you get a candle with the flame, and let's say the candle is about to be extinguished, so it's at the end of the wax. At that moment where the candle is going to be extinguished, you pass the flame to a new candle. Now the question would be, that new candle now has the flame, is that flame the same of the previous one, of the previous candle? And I think the most reasonable answer is like yes and no, because in a way there is a continuation of the previous flame to the new flame, but also now it's burning a new set of wax. So it's not exactly in a new space in time. So it's not exactly the same. So it's yes and no. That's one way of trying to understand what the Buddha was talking about, the continuation of the process of life, of samsara. We could relate this more to aspects of the mind. So maybe there's certain aspects of consciousness which moves from body to body, but it's not precisely a soul.